Hi everyone, I'm Shelly from There's No Place Like Home at redheadmom8.wordpress.com. Today I'm going to be giving you another installment of the Notebooking 101 series, and I'm going to start talking to you today about copywork. And I was originally just going to do a little how-to post like I did with the other ones on how to get started with copywork in your homeschool. But I realized that a lot of people are really unsure of what copywork even is. So I thought that instead of just telling you how to do it, because it really doesn't require a whole lot, I'm going to give you some copywork FAQs that I'm going to answer for you. So the first one that I'm going to answer for you is, what is copywork? Copywork is simply a passage, a poem, a verse, any sort of writing that you think is valuable for your kids that you just have them copy down. That is really all there is to it. It could be as little as, for a younger child, copying a word or a few words. It could be as much as copying an entire passage. For example, some of my older kids have done copywork of the Mayflower Compact. So that's all copywork is just finding a resource that you want your children to learn from, and you just have them copy it into a notebook. That's all that copywork is. So the next question that I'm going to answer is, when should I start doing copywork with my kids? And you know, that really is up to you. Different families start at different times. I know that there are some people who start copywork right away with their children when they're really young. But you have to remember that you don't want to expect too much from your younger children right away. So if you are starting copywork with, say, your kindergartner, don't expect them to be able to immediately write out full Bible verses, for example, or even complete and complex sentences. You might want to start out, depending on their level, you might want to start out with just giving them maybe a word that you want them to copy. For example, if they're just starting to write, you might want to have them copy the word apple, and then you could have them illustrate the word apple, or you could even do a little alphabet book with them like that. And as your kids progress and get older and learn how to write and learn how to tolerate writing better, you add more and more copywork for them to do. But again, this isn't something that is confined to doing certain things with certain ages, because there are some 5-year-olds who write well enough that they really could be writing out complete verses right away. And on the other hand, there might be 8 or 9-year-olds who really are not comfortable enough with writing yet to be able to do that. So you really have to do it to your child's level. You don't want to overwhelm them, and you don't want to make it so that they hate doing copywork. But you might want to be careful. I know there are some kids out there, my kids have already done it, where you have to know where they're at, because sometimes if they're just not in the mood, they might want to trick you from time to time. So just make sure that you're paying attention, know where your kids are at, and know what they're capable of. Don't push too hard, but at the same time, don't go too easy on them either, because you want your kids to be able to progress as time goes on with how much they can handle. So now to the question, why should we use copywork? And I know that a lot of people use copywork in addition to their language arts curriculum, but there are also others, like us, we use copywork instead of language arts curriculum. At least we do that with our middles. Now, our littles do use a phonics curriculum and reading, which is just teach your child to read in 100 easy lessons. It's nothing major. And then our high school age kids, they use dailygrams for grammar. But in the meantime, so everybody from, say, 3rd or 4th through 8th grade in our homeschool only uses copywork for their language arts curriculum. I don't even introduce a grammar curriculum until high school. And I'll go over with you why. So copywork easily covers language arts. And if you think about it, language arts is reading, writing, learning grammar, learning punctuation, and learning how to spell. When your child is doing copywork, they are learning all of those things, because when they are copying the passages that you have assigned to them, they are reading it. At the same time, The point of copywork is that your child has to copy it exactly as it is. And I'll get more into this with my last question of how to do copywork. But just for now, I'll just tell you that copywork is that your kids have to really pay attention to how it is done. You know, if there are capital letters in the passage that they're copying, they have to make sure they put a capital letter. If there are commas or periods, they have to make sure that they put the commas and periods in there. And as they grow more mindful of these things, as they are doing their copywork, they are going to instinctively and naturally learn where all of these things go. They're going to see that periods and commas come when they would, for example, pause if they were reading something, or a period comes after a thought is completed. So a grammar curriculum at this stage is really not necessary if your child is doing a lot of copywork, because they are seeing these examples in their writing. They also are getting a good example of different writing styles, especially if you are doing different types of copywork with your kids. Now, some of the examples that you can use for copywork are, and I mentioned some earlier, you could use Bible verses, you could use poetry, you could do song lyrics, you could even use recipes as copywork, believe it or not. You could do passages of great books. You could ask your kids to copy like inspirational quotes that they happen to like. Literally anything that is written with quality is suitable for copywork. So yes, so if they have this variety of things that they are copying, they are getting a glimpse into different writing styles, different sentence structure, those sorts of things. And as with the writing, as they are doing this copywork, they're seeing how words are spelled. And again, they're seeing that in a natural setting. They are seeing it written in everyday format, whether it's through stories or whether it's through poems. It doesn't matter. They're seeing it how it is used in real life. They're seeing it in context, which also would fit in with vocabulary. They are seeing words in context. And as they're doing these passages, sometimes they might come across a word that they don't understand. And sometimes they'll figure it out just by reading the rest of it, or other times they might ask you, and still other times they might decide that they want to look it up themselves. But this is covering vocabulary also for you. Now, grammar isn't something that I mentioned earlier that I teach my kids formally until high school. Now, we do start going over nouns and verbs and subjects and predicates at this age, but we do not use a textbook for it. So what I usually do to introduce those things is either with their journals, which I will be doing a video on journals coming up soon, I'm not sure when, or with copywork. Sometimes I might say to my kids, okay, so pick out one of your copywork passages, and I want you to circle all the nouns today. Or other times I might tell them, put 2 lines under each verb. Still other times I might say to them, I want you to choose 5 sentences in your copywork, and I want you to draw a line between the subject and the predicate. And of course, before you can do these things, you have to explain to your kids what all of those things mean. But this is just another way that copywork really can fulfill that obligation, because when it comes to the harder things, such as gerunds and past participles and all of those sorts of things, it does not take 12 years for your kids to learn that. It doesn't even take 5 years for your kids to learn that. So waiting until high school is definitely sufficient for your kids to learn that. And in all honesty, those things, they are not going to matter in day-to-day life when your child is older, unless they decide to become an English teacher or an English professor or something along those lines. But the fact of the matter is that your child will never be turned down for a job promotion if they can't tell their employer what a gerund is. I guarantee it. Again, unless they want to be an English teacher or something like that. So yeah, that's definitely something that can be covered in high school. And so far, we've been doing really well doing it this way. I hope that I've covered all of them. So we've done spelling, vocabulary, writing, grammar. I think we got everything. And then reading. Okay, so then the next one, and this is the big one, is how to do copywork. And again, this is one of those things that it can be done a million ways. But I'm just going to give you some tips on how we do it, maybe just to give you a little starting off point. So first of all, you have a choice. You can either decide that you are going to give your child an entire book devoted to copywork, which is actually called a copybook, or you can decide that you are going to incorporate copywork into your child's notebooking, which we actually do a combination of the two. So I actually have examples of both to show you today. So for copybooks, I actually really prefer to just use composition books. I got these at the Dollar Tree, and I had my kids decorate them with cardstock and stickers and all kinds of fun stuff. And this book is dedicated solely to copywork. So if you look on each page, that's all it is, copywork, throughout the entire thing. Now, I will point out to you that, now I see my son spelled hammock wrong here. You spelled hammock wrong here, Bailey. 2 M's. So anyway, and that actually came at the perfect time, because I was going to tell you that if you are going to correct your child's writing, copywork is the time that you want to do it. I tend not to do it so much with their creative writing or the things that actually come out of their own minds. I hope that's coming out right. You know, when your kids are writing things on their own, they're not actually copying things, but they're writing original pieces. I try to focus on content during those times. And yes, when kids are older, they're definitely old enough that you can point things out to them. But when kids are a little bit younger, you know, like my kids that do this are sometimes 8, sometimes 9, sometimes 10. I'm not going to focus so much on the mechanics of it when they are learning how to write content. Copywork is the time that you can focus on that, because it's not their own work. They're just copying what they have before them. So if you happen to notice that they have a word misspelled, you can just point out to them and say, like I just did here now, I can say, hey Bailey, you spelled hammock wrong. And then if they still have the book in front of them, you can point out to them and then just say to them, now make sure that you're really careful that you write it exactly as it's written here. And that's all that I do. And you can do that with anything. You can do that with commas. You can do that with periods. So again, definitely if you want to help your kids to recognize their mistakes when it comes to writing, copywork, especially for kids who aren't really that old yet, is the best time to do it, because it is not going to take away their love of writing, because it is just something that they have copied and maybe have missed something. But with you pointing it out to them, you know, they are learning. They're still learning. You know, he still learned right now that he spelled hammock wrong. And, you know, I don't think that he cares. So now he knows that hammock has 2 M's. So it's not something that is really going to hurt them in the long run and make them not want to write anymore, because they're afraid that mom is always going to come after, you know, their masterpieces with a red pen. So that's that. And I will say that the reason that we use composition books for our copybooks rather than spiral notebooks is just because I've noticed that the pages in spiral notebooks, they tear out way too easily. Now some people have mentioned to me that their pages in these tear out easily, but we have not had that issue so far. We've actually had a lot of good composition books, I guess, even though they're from the Dollar Tree. But anyway, so that's what we use for copybooks. But again, it is something that you would decide how you want to do it. I know some people even have them spiral bound or comb bound themselves, you know, like at Staples or Office Depot. Now, I did mention earlier that sometimes I will incorporate copywork into my kids' notebooking or into their unit studies. And in those cases, since the copywork is going to be put in their notebooks, I am not going to use their composition books for that, or their copybooks for that. And there are so many different ways that you can do this, again, with a notebook. And I noticed that my daughter has like all of the different ways that I was going to mention right here in this notebook, so I'm going to show you. So for right here, she did copywork. I think this might be the Mayflower Compact. She just used a regular piece of notebook paper. And that is totally fine. If you do that, I would highly recommend that you use these sheet protectors like I do, because notebook paper tears really, really easily. So another way to combat tearing notebook paper. If you notice here, she did some Copywork, a quote by William Bradford, and she actually glued it to a piece of cardstock, and then she also put it in the sheet protector. So I don't know if you can see that. I'll just show you really quickly right there. And then another way, of course, is just a notebooking page. I will link notebookingpages.com down below. That is an awesome website to get notebooking pages. There are so many. Like, even if you join just the free membership, they will give you a download for over 600 notebooking pages. It is definitely worth the visit to that website. So this is a notebooking page here, and right here she did a Bible verse. And she illustrated it in the little box right there. And again, these are just 3 different ways that your kids can use their Copywork in their regular notebooks, or maybe in with their unit study activities. It's just by using notebook paper glued to something like cardstock that is going to make it more durable, and notebooking pages. So really, that is all that Copywork is. If you have any questions, please leave them down below. I hope that I didn't forget anything, because really, Copywork is so simple. All it is really just setting a passage or something that you want your kids to copy in front of them and asking them to copy it exactly as they see it. Capital letters where they see capital, lowercase where they see lowercase, if they see quotation marks, commas, all of those sorts of things. They have to make sure that they get each and everything just as they see it on the page. But that's all there is to it. So again, I'm going to go back to that. If you have any questions, just leave it down below. I will answer as soon as I possibly can. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed yet and would like to see more of what I have to say, I would love if you would do that. And I hope you have a great day.